So, legitimately, for the first time with the Bruins recap here, and we're 45, 46 games into it, I'm really struggling on what I can say about this game. The Bruins lose 4-2 to the Vancouver Canucks in an extremely deflating loss. Prior to this, obviously a 3-game winning streak, but obviously before that, some pretty shit hockey. You get this 3-game winning streak, things are looking up. You're playing Vancouver, who's on their 5th game of a 6-game road trip. Fairness to Vancouver, the Canucks aren't playing their best hockey, but they are kind of turning it on now, getting 7 points out of a possible 10 in their last 5 games now on this road trip. But simply put, the Bruins had every opportunity to win this game. The finish just wasn't there. With respect to Markstrom, who had a solid game, the Bruins very well could have put up 5-6 goals in this game had they made the most of their opportunities. Unfortunately for them, Vancouver did that a hell of a lot better. The first period, the first 3.5 minutes, a perfect example. The Bruins are all over the puck. Quick play, Bo Horvat off the boards to Radim Vrbata, stretch pass to Sven Berchke, who outraces Kevin Miller, sneaks it past Tuukka Rask, 1-0 Vancouver. That was so deflating, and you can see it. The Bruins continued to work hard, outshooting Vancouver 11-4 in that first period, but for you to go out and to outplay and outshoot a team like that, 11-4, but enter the second period down 1-0. I mean, that feels like a game of NHL 16. So frustrating, so deflating, and a massive victory for the Canucks. Second period, a bit more even in terms of shot total, but the Bruins would strike late in the period. A questionable hit on Chris Tanev, who was hurt but returned for the third period. But directly after that hit, you have David Pastrnak hit Jimmy Hayes. Jimmy Hayes snipes the goal for his 11th of the season, gets the Bruins a lot of momentum heading into the third period. Ryan Spooner back on the board with an assist. Pastrnak continues to get back into the flow of things, and again, good for Jimmy Hayes to get that goal. My hope for him was 20. He's at 11. He very well should hit that mark. But in the third period, immediately the momentum you gain by tying it up late in the second period is gone because of all fucking people. Alex Burrows, under 2 minutes into the third period, puts Vancouver on top again. And this is what I was talking about. In the first period, you have them in a perfect situation, counterattack, Vancouver scores. Third period, it's 1-1. You're in a great spot, weak defense, Alex Burrows gets the goal. Brad Marchand would score under 4 minutes later. Bergeron on the assist, so Bergey's 24th assist, which is crazy, 18th goal for Brad Marchand. But then 3 minutes later, Daniel Sedin scores. So multiple times in this game, the Bruins are in a perfect situation to put their foot on the throat of Vancouver, shut them out and take control of this game, and they just couldn't tighten up defensively. Daniel Sedin adds an empty net goal, his 20th and 21st goal of the season, having a very strong year. Fully admit you don't hear too much about Daniel Sedin or Henrik Sedin or the Canucks in general being on the East Coast. Everyone obviously knows how good they are, and congratulations to Daniel Sedin on becoming the Vancouver Canucks all-time leading scorer. And the story remains the same as it has after every Bruins loss. You still have some holes in the offense despite David Krejci being back in the lineup. That was absolutely gigantic. He looked good. It's going to take him a few games to get rolling again. Jonas Kemppainen, the easy scratch, and of course Frank Vatrano sent down as expected. But you still have some key players, or people who you really need to be key players, who aren't performing consistently or who simply aren't performing at all. And then defensively, you still have some holes. Obviously, Brett Connolly did absolutely nothing. Louis Eriksson, he had some chances. In fairness, normally when Louis Eriksson's not on the scoreboard, he's normally pretty invisible. He had some chances, 5 shots. But guys like Chara, guys like Spooner on the ice for these goals. You needed more. Spooner, of course, got that assist. Good to see him back on the score sheet. It just wasn't good enough. And that's where the big question comes in, because obviously a lot of talk has been, will the Bruins trade Louis Eriksson? Although apparently they are negotiating. You have articles on Sportsnet, for example, by Luke Fox, saying that he expects the Bruins could get a first rounder and a prospect from a really high-end team for Louis as the team makes their playoff push. But is that what the Bruins need to do? That's my question to you. That's been the question all season. What does this team need to do? Do they need to go further into the rebuild, or do they need to simply stick with it and attempt to get better? It would be great to get an extra prospect and another first-round pick, especially after you traded away a fucking third-rounder and 2 second-rounders for fucking Ronaldo and Brett Connolly. It'd be great to get those draft picks. But is this team still in a position that they are only a few pieces away from a cup run? And obviously, if you are, keeping Louis is a huge part of that. For the most part, as I've said in prior videos, he's been a big kind of question mark. People labeled him as underrated in Dallas, which is ridiculous because of the points he's put up. Someone who's underrated is more like a Yannick Hansen on Vancouver, who kind of does. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch. In prior years, though, he had some good years. But it's players like that who are underrated. It's not someone like Louis. But Louis he's having his best year in Boston. The prior years, he was just kind of all right. Now he's kind of showing shades of what he was doing in Dallas, especially because of what he's done on the power play. And again, I've praised the power play strategy all season long, deservingly so, still the second best in the league. But that's really the big thing, is do you keep Louis Eriksson and look to build on top of that, or do you get rid of him now? Do you believe that this is the real Louis Eriksson and that he will continue to be this consistent? If not, obviously you get rid of him. But truly, the Bruins are only a few pieces away. But if you don't have the confidence in certain prospects, like we've seen guys like Griffith and Koklachev get called up and not have any success, if you're not confident that those players can eventually get into this main team, obviously you need to restock the cupboard there, trade Louis, get what you can for him, and then really go along with the full rebuild. I don't want to sit here and say for sure trade Louis, blow this up, because it is just one game. The Bruins still are competing for a playoff spot, but I simply don't know whether or not we're going to see Louis Eriksson as a Bruin at the end of this season. It's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks leading up to the trade deadline next month, seeing what happens. I would obviously prefer the Bruins to stay competitive, keep Louis, try like hell to get another defenseman. I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know who you could even get at this point. You need another defenseman. Kevin Miller, I'm not putting all the blame on Kevin Miller, but it would certainly be better to have a more experienced NHL guy in the lineup than Morrow or Miller. But again, if you're looking to rebuild, having Joe Morrow get NHL experience is the way to go. So I'm going to stop rambling at this point. It's nothing but question marks from this team. A very disappointing performance to have the Bruins have multiple chances to finish off Vancouver here and take control of the game. They never did. But of course, in the comments down below, my question to you, what do you think so far? Obviously, we're halfway through the season. Do you think Louis is sticking around? And at this point, what would you have to guess? What direction are the Bruins going to go? Obviously, if they trade Louis, they're going to be trending more towards a rebuild. But again, that is it for this one. As always, if you've enjoyed, leave a like down below. Let me know what you think of the shootout gameplay. I'll probably do that just to keep it a little bit more interesting. Again, I've kind of worked this as more of a kind of a podcast form. Like I said at the end of the last episode, open up a tab and just kind of hang out. But just let me know what you think of the shootout. Obviously, I've done some gameplay in the past, but I figured the shootout would be a much more interesting background. Subscribe if you've enjoyed. Of course, recaps after every single Bruins game, and I will see you all next time.